The emergency shuttle to Council Station Alpha hummed around Eliza as she stared at her reflection in the polished chrome surface of her armrest. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She hadn't slept since the quantum anomaly. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ambassador Harrison's contorted face, his eyes wide with the shock of sudden death. 20 minutes to docking, Ambassador, the pilot announced, the title still sounding wrong to her ears. Eliza nodded absently, running through xenolinguistic protocols in her head. Her academic career had focused on understanding alien communication patterns, not participating in them. Now, humanity's standing in the galaxy rested on her unprepared shoulders. Review the first contact protocols for the Vorathi again, she instructed her datapad. The Vorathi communicate status through mandible positioning. The device intoned. Keep your chin elevated precisely 12 degrees when addressing the speaker. Any lower indicates submission. Any higher signals aggression. A wave of nausea swept through her as the shuttle banked toward the enormous crystalline structure of Council Station. The medical team had attributed her symptoms to stress, but something felt fundamentally wrong. Since the anomaly, words formed differently in her mind. Clearer, sharper, with an unsettling directness that bypassed her usual mental filters. Ambassador Chen, her attaché interrupted, a young diplomat named Michaels who had survived the anomaly only because he'd been delivering messages elsewhere on the station. I've prepared your introductory remarks. You'll need to memorize them before we dock. He handed her a datapad containing flowery diplomatic platitudes about Earth's honor at participating in council proceedings. Eliza scanned the text and immediately frowned. This opening statement claims Earth is humbled by the Council's benevolent inclusion, but our internal diplomatic assessment classifies Council acceptance of human observers as reluctant and strategically necessary due to our controlled access to Sector 8 minerals. Michaels blanched. Ambassador, we never say the actual reasons out loud. That's not how diplomacy works. I know that, Eliza snapped, rubbing her temples where a persistent headache had lodged since the anomaly. I can't seem to. She tried to practice the opening line. The Terran Diplomatic Corps extends its deepest gratitude. But the words felt physically wrong in her mouth, like trying to swallow glass. Something's wrong with me, she whispered. It's just nerves, Michaels assured her. The medical team cleared you. The shuttle docked with a soft pneumatic hiss. Through the viewport, Eliza could see the welcoming committee, representatives from all 17 council species arranged in precise hierarchical formation. The Vorathi speaker stood at the center, his iridescent carapace gleaming under the station's lights. Remember, Michaels whispered as the airlock cycled, just read the statement, bow, and follow the Merskani representative to the observation gallery. Earth can't afford another diplomatic incident. Eliza nodded, swallowing against the strange pressure in her throat, unaware that in less than 6 hours she would shatter the careful diplomatic fiction that had maintained the Council's power for centuries, unaware that her unique condition would transform her from an unprepared academic into the most dangerous person in Council space, someone who could speak only truth to power. The airlock door slid open, and Earth's accidental ambassador stepped into galactic history. The security drones guided Eliza through the Council Station's gleaming corridors, their anti-gravity fields humming with barely contained energy. Unlike the human escort who had abandoned her at the chamber entrance, these machines couldn't display shock or embarrassment. They simply followed their programming, escorting the diplomatic incident that was Earth's new ambassador to containment. I didn't mean to say those things, Eliza said to the nearest drone, its optical sensors pulsing with indifferent blue light. Something's wrong with me. Behind them, the great chamber had erupted into 17 species chaos. The Arathi delegation's trilling laughter still echoed down the corridor, while the Vorathi speaker's furious mandible clicks grew fainter with distance. Eliza caught fragments of translation as multiple species argued simultaneously. Words like unprecedented, violation, and human treachery. The drones directed her into a sparse waiting room with a single curved bench designed to accommodate multiple physiologies. The door sealed with a pneumatic hiss, security field shimmering into place across its surface. Eliza sank onto the bench, trembling. Her diplomatic career had lasted precisely 6 minutes before catastrophic failure. She buried her face in her hands, mind racing through the implications. Earth needed its Council observer status. Humanity's expansion depended on it. And she had just accused the most powerful council member of corruption in front of the entire assembly. "What is wrong with me?" she whispered, the question directed at no one. "A most fascinating neural adaptation," answered an unexpected voice. Eliza looked up to find a Merskani scientist standing on the other side of the security field. The feline being's vertical pupils had contracted to thin lines in the bright corridor light, whiskers twitching with curiosity. "Dr. Mirax." The Merskani introduced herself, fur rippling in the formal greeting pattern of her species. "Chief Neurological Researcher, Council Science Division." "Are you here to interrogate me?" Eliza asked, mentally cataloging everything she knew about Merskani culture, their scientific objectivity, their cultural value of direct communication, their biological inability to forget. "Observe, not interrogate," Dr. Mirax corrected, whiskers twitching. "You were exposed to a quantum anomaly yesterday, yes?" Eliza nodded. "I found the ambassador and his staff. They were already dead. Yet you survived." The Merskani's tail swished in a pattern indicating intense scientific curiosity. "And now you appear unable to speak anything but what you perceive as truth. Most remarkable." The security field deactivated, and the Merskani entered, carrying a small device that hummed softly as she approached. "My species values knowledge above political convenience," Dr. Mirax explained, circling Eliza with the scanning device. "What happened in the council chamber has created quite the political crisis, but scientifically speaking." Her ears perked forward. "You may be the most significant neurological case study in council records." The scanner beeped, and Dr. Mirax's pupils dilated as she examined the results. "Extraordinary," she breathed. "Quantum entanglement between your speech centers and perception centers, a condition never documented in any sentient species. Can you fix it?" Eliza asked desperately. The Merskani's ears flattened slightly, a gesture of respectful negation. "This isn't a malfunction to be fixed, Ambassador. It's an adaptation. Your neural architecture has been fundamentally rewired." "What does that mean?" Eliza whispered, though she already suspected the answer. "It means," Dr. Mirax said, ears now perked with unmistakable scientific excitement, "that you are physically incapable of articulating anything you perceive as untrue. And that, Ambassador Chen, makes you the most dangerous being in council space." General Rivera's hologram flickered as the secure quantum connection struggled against council interference. "Can you confirm your status, Ambassador Chen?" Eliza touched her temples where the electrodes had left small circular marks. 3 days of neural scans had left her exhausted, her throat raw from endless questioning. "I'm alive, General, physically unharmed. And mentally." She laughed without humor. "I've revealed every strategic weakness in Earth's defenses, detailed our diplomatic strategy for the next 5 years, and explained exactly how desperate we are to maintain Council observer status. So mentally, I'd say I'm horrified." The general's expression remained carefully neutral, but Eliza could read the tension in his jaw. Earth's military had spent decades carefully projecting strength beyond their actual capabilities. Her compulsive truth-telling had shattered that illusion in hours. "We're working on extraction options," Rivera said quietly. "The Vorathi and Draconis have submitted formal complaints," Eliza replied. "They're debating whether to classify me as a biological weapon. No ship will be allowed to dock that could transport me back to Earth." The connection deteriorated further, Rivera's image fragmenting. "Maintain. Position. Backup plan." The transmission cut entirely as Council countermeasures finally overwhelmed the quantum encryption. Eliza leaned back in her temporary quarters, a glorified cell with surveillance embedded in every surface. The Merskani had insisted on humane accommodations after completing their initial assessment, but she remained effectively imprisoned. The door chimed softly, then slid open to reveal Dr. Mirax. The Merskani scientist's fur was disheveled, suggesting she hadn't rested since beginning her research on Eliza's condition. "Ambassador," she greeted, ears twitching with excitement. "Something unprecedented is happening. More unprecedented than my condition," Eliza asked dryly. "The information is spreading." Dr. Mirax activated a holographic display showing communication patterns across the station. "Someone leaked recordings of your interrogation sessions. They're being shared across diplomatic channels, personal networks, even public forums on multiple worlds." The display showed thousands of transmission points, spreading outward like a viral contagion. "Why would anyone care about my neural condition?" "Not your condition," Dr. Mirax corrected. "Your answers." Eliza felt the blood drain from her face. "Everything I revealed about Earth, and everything you revealed about the Council," the Merskani added. "You've confirmed suspicions many junior species have harbored for decades. The Tellurians are particularly agitated about your revelation regarding their manipulated shipping contracts." A soft alert chimed on Dr. Mirax's communication device. Her ears flattened against her skull as she read the message. "What is it?" Eliza asked. "The Vorathi speaker has called an emergency session to discuss your immediate deportation, or," she hesitated, "or execution," Eliza finished. "That's what they're considering, isn't it?" The Merskani's silence was confirmation enough. Before either could speak further, the door chimed again. When it opened, Eliza was shocked to find not security drones, but a delegation of junior diplomatic aides and attaches from at least 5 different species. A young Arathi stepped forward, feathered crest raised in formal greeting. "Ambassador Chen," she chirped, translator rendering her trilling speech into standard. "We have questions about Council history that only you can answer with certainty." Behind her, the others nodded, representatives from species that had never before united in common purpose. "It seems," Dr. Mirax observed quietly, "that your unique condition has made you something unexpected." "What's that?" Eliza asked. "A catalyst." Eliza studied the data fragments floating in the holographic display before her. Nari stood silently nearby, multifaceted eyes constantly scanning for electronic surveillance. The Tellurian had disabled the quarter's monitoring systems temporarily, but they couldn't risk discovery. "These trade manifests," Eliza murmured, enlarging the section of the projection. "The reported quantities don't match the actual cargo scans." "Precisely," Nari confirmed. "The Vorathi claimed to import raw materials from the Tellurian mining colonies, but export finished goods at volumes impossible with the declared imports." Eliza's mind, trained to identify patterns in alien communication, quickly connected seemingly unrelated documents. They're skimming resources, taking more than they report, leaving less for other species. "For centuries," Nari said, her copper skin darkening with emotion. "This particular discrepancy dates back 342 years. We Tellurians never forget numbers." The pieces were falling into place with horrifying clarity. The Vorathi controlled shipping routes between the outer colonies and the Council core. The Draconis oversaw military protection of those routes. The Ultharians administered resource allocation. Together, they had created a system of institutional theft so entrenched it was practically invisible. Ambassador Harrison found this, Eliza realized aloud. That's why they killed him. Nari's expression remained difficult to read with her non-human features, but her voice carried unmistakable grief. "He contacted our delegation the day before the quantum anomaly. Said he needed to verify his findings before presenting them formally." The station's lighting suddenly shifted to emergency red. The AI's voice echoed through the corridors. "Security alert in Diplomatic Sector 4. All personnel return to designated quarters." Nari stiffened. They've discovered the security breach. They know someone's accessing restricted files. Eliza's gaze fell on the final piece of evidence, security footage showing a Draconis operative placing a small device near the human quarters hours before the anomaly. The timestamp matched precisely when Ambassador Harrison would have been reviewing the evidence he'd gathered. It was a targeted assassination, she breathed. They didn't just want him silenced. They wanted to eliminate any human who might have been exposed to this information. The emergency lights pulsed more urgently as heavy footsteps approached down the corridor, the distinctive rhythm of Draconis security forces. Nari pressed a communication device into Eliza's palm, the design unfamiliar and clearly not Council standard. The Arathi Ambassador has a private shuttle prepared. Lower maintenance shaft. Section 17B coordinates are pre-programmed. They'll track any ship leaving the station, Eliza protested. Not this one. Nari's multifaceted eyes reflected the pulsing red emergency lights. It uses stealth technology the Council doesn't know we've developed. The footsteps grew louder. Nari moved to the environmental control panel and began rerouting systems. What are you doing? Eliza asked. Creating a diversion. The Tellurian's fingers moved with precise, practiced motions. The atmospheric system will register a containment breach. Emergency protocols will seal this section. Eliza gripped the alien's copper-skinned arm. Come with me. Nari shook her head. My people need me here. Besides, they already suspect you. They don't yet know how many of us are involved. The door panel beeped as external override codes were entered. Go, Nari urged, opening a maintenance hatch hidden behind a decorative panel. The galaxy needs to hear the truth, Ambassador, and you're the only one who can't help but speak it. Eliza slipped into the narrow passage as the main door began to slide open, revealing the scaled armor of Draconis enforcers. The last thing she saw was Nari calmly deleting all evidence of their conversation as the security team stormed in. The hatch sealed behind her, leaving Eliza alone with the evidence of a conspiracy centuries in the making, and the knowledge that her unique condition made her both its greatest threat and its only hope of exposure. The Council chamber had never been designed to accommodate the public. Its soaring architecture and precise acoustic engineering had been created for 17 species representatives, not the hundreds now crowded into hastily installed gallery seating. Journalists from dozens of worlds jostled for position, their recording devices hovering on anti-gravity fields to capture every moment of unprecedented transparency. 3 days of questioning had left Eliza exhausted, her voice reduced to a rasp. Yet she remained upright at the witness podium, the neural monitors attached to her temples confirming what the Council had refused to believe until now. She physically could not lie. Ambassador Chen, the Vorathi representative, began, his carapace flushed a deep crimson, a sign of controlled rage in his species. Your accusations of conspiracy are convenient for a species seeking to disrupt established governance. Why should Council species believe Earth hasn't engineered your condition precisely to sow discord? Earth's neurological science isn't capable of creating my condition, Eliza answered immediately. We barely understand quantum physics at the level required. In fact, our military research division has already tried and failed to replicate what happened to me. A ripple of murmurs spread through the audience. The Vorathi had expected denial, not confirmation that humanity had already attempted to weaponize her condition. The Draconis military commander leaned forward, scales glinting under the chamber lights. You've revealed Earth's defensive capabilities, admitted your species couldn't withstand direct assault, yet continue provoking the Council's most powerful members. Explain this illogical behavior. Eliza's throat ached as she responded, but her condition permitted no silence when questioned directly. Because humans understand that physical power isn't the only kind that matters. Information, truth, threatens your control more effectively than warships. The commander's translator struggled to convey the untranslatable Draconis curse that followed. In the observation gallery, Dr. Mirax's ears twitched with scientific satisfaction. The Merskani had confirmed Elise's condition publicly on the first day, lending crucial credibility to the proceedings. Now she watched as centuries of careful political fiction unraveled before a galactic audience. An elderly Ultharian rose from the elder species section, his flowing robes marking him as a senior diplomat. His species was known for philosophical detachment and strategic pragmatism. "What would humanity do in our position?" he asked, his tone genuinely curious rather than accusatory. "If your species had maintained galactic stability for centuries, would you not protect that system by any means necessary?" The question was cleverly designed, empathetic, seemingly reasonable, offering Elisa a chance to admit that humanity would behave no better. "The same thing, probably," she answered honestly, drawing surprised murmurs from the gallery. "Power corrupts regardless of species." The Ultharian's posture relaxed slightly, sensing victory. "The difference," Eliza continued, her voice strengthening despite her exhaustion, "is that humans have destroyed ourselves enough times to learn that systems need transparency to survive. We've had our dark ages, our world wars, our near-extinction events. Your three species have held power for so long you've forgotten that lives require constant maintenance and eventually collapse under their own weight." The Ultharian's translator conveyed her words in his native language, and the elder diplomat's posture shifted subtly. Recognition, not dismissal. Across the chamber, representatives from 11 younger species exchanged glances. The Arathi ambassador's feathered crest rose in decision. As the council prepared to vote on Elisa's fate, the 11 representatives simultaneously left their assigned positions and moved to surround her witness stand in a physical declaration of alliance. "We acknowledge the truth," the Arathi announced, her translator rendering the words in 17 languages simultaneously. However uncomfortable, the council chamber erupted in chaos as centuries of careful balance shifted irrevocably in a single moment. The Draconis flagship's silhouette dominated Earth's orbital monitors, its angular profile designed specifically to evoke primal fear responses across multiple species. 16 support vessels maintained precise formation behind it, weapon systems powered but inactive, a predator displaying its teeth without yet striking. In the emergency command center beneath Geneva, President Okafer's hologram flickered as she addressed the hastily assembled crisis team. Her voice remained steady despite the catastrophic threat hanging above humanity's homeworld. "All civilian evacuation protocols are active," she reported. "Mars Colony and Luna Base are preparing emergency shelters." General Rivera nodded grimly, studying tactical projections that confirmed what they already knew. Earth's defenses couldn't withstand sustained assault from the Draconis fleet. "We've mobilized everything we have, but it's mostly for show. If they decide to attack." He left the sentence unfinished. Everyone in the room understood the implications. Eliza studied the tactical display, her xenolinguistics training allowing her to recognize patterns in the Draconis fleet positioning. This formation isn't standard attack protocol. It's ceremonial, designed for maximum psychological impact during diplomatic confrontations. "They're planning to negotiate?" Secretary Chen asked, hope briefly flickering across her exhausted features. "They're planning to deliver an ultimatum," Eliza corrected. "The Draconis never waste resources on actual warfare when intimidation will suffice." The communication system chimed with an incoming transmission routed through 17 relay points, the distinctive signature of the Merskani secure network. Dr. Mirax's feline features appeared on the main display, her fur disheveled and eyes wide with urgency. "Ambassador Chen," she greeted, dispensing with formal protocols. "We've completed our analysis of the data you provided." "And?" General Rivera prompted impatiently. The Merskani scientist's whiskers twitched in what Eliza recognized as scientific excitement overriding fear. "The council elders can't win this conflict, not in the long term." She transmitted detailed intelligence gathered by Merskani researchers across council space. Innovation rates, technology acquisition patterns, demographic projections. The data painted a clear picture that the elder species had been concealing for centuries, even from themselves. They've become technologically stagnant, Dr. Mirax explained, ears perked forward. The Draconis haven't developed new propulsion systems in 3 centuries. The Vorathi weapons technology relies on principles they discovered nearly 500 years ago. While younger species continue to innovate, Eliza realized, seeing the pattern. Precisely. The Merskani's tail swished in affirmation. The elders have maintained their advantage by restricting technology transfer and keeping younger species isolated from each other. But several species have already reverse-engineered their supposedly restricted technologies. The tactical display chimed as the Draconis flagship initiated contact. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Fleet Commander Shikthar, his scaled features arranged in the formal pattern of one delivering judgment rather than negotiating. "Humans of Earth," the commander began, his translator rendering his hissing speech into coldly precise standard. "The Council has determined your species represents an existential threat to galactic stability. Ambassador Chen's actions have violated 17 diplomatic protocols and revealed classified information to unauthorized parties." President Okafor stepped forward, chin raised in the precise angle that Draconis culture recognized as respectful defiance. "Commander, we are prepared to discuss." "There is nothing to discuss," Shikthar interrupted. "Our terms are non-negotiable. Surrender Ambassador Chen for Council justice, formally apologize for disrupting Council proceedings, and accept permanent probationary status with enhanced restrictions on human expansion." His scaled lips pulled back to reveal serrated teeth, a deliberate intimidation display. "You have 6 Earth hours to comply, or we will demonstrate the consequences of defying Council authority." The transmission cut, leaving the emergency command center in silence. Eliza felt all eyes turn to her. For the first time since the quantum anomaly had rewired her brain, she wished desperately that she could offer comforting lies, diplomatic platitudes, anything to soften what she knew to be true. Instead, she met the president's gaze directly. "They're bluffing from a position of long-term weakness. Let me show them exactly how weak they truly are." 3 days of silence from the Draconis fleet had stretched humanity's collective nerves to breaking point. The ships maintained their threatening formation above Earth, weapons powered but inactive, while the deadline for the ultimatum had come and gone without consequence. "They're still deliberating," Eliza explained to the War Council. "The Draconis never act without consensus from the other elder species." The main display suddenly flickered with an incoming transmission. Instead of the expected Draconis commander, the screen showed the interior of a warship bridge. But something was clearly wrong. A junior navigation officer stood facing his superior, trembling visibly but maintaining his position. "The targeting calculations you ordered are flawed, Commander," the young Draconis declared, his scales pale with fear but his posture resolute. "They deliberately maximize civilian casualties in violation of Council warfare protocols." The commander's scales darkened with rage. "You question my orders, hatchling." "I question their legality," the junior officer responded. "I have verified Ambassador Chen's claims regarding our command structure. You falsified readiness reports to conceal weapons degradation. You diverted maintenance resources to your personal estate." Security officers moved to restrain the junior officer, but 3 other crew members stepped forward to stand with him. "This transmission is being broadcast across the fleet," the junior officer announced. The human spoke truth. "Our command has lied to us for generations." The feed cut abruptly, but similar reports began flooding in from across Council space. On the Vorathi homeworld, a trade minister publicly released unaltered economic data showing decades of systematic resource theft from frontier colonies. In the Ultharian Collective, a mid-level bureaucrat broadcast evidence of corruption in military procurement that had left their fleet with substandard weapons. "They're calling it speaking the human way," Earth's intelligence director reported, monitoring real-time feeds from Council worlds. "Direct truth without diplomatic cushioning." The movement spread with astonishing speed, not from coordinated planning, but from thousands of individual decisions made simultaneously across species and worlds. Council archives were breached by their own archivists, revealing centuries of manipulated records. "This doesn't make sense," General Rivera muttered, watching the reports flood in. "Why now? These species have accepted council rule for centuries." Eliza studied the patterns emerging across the data feeds. "They've accepted it because they believe they were alone in their suspicions. My condition proved that absolute truth can exist in a system built on lies. It gave them something they never had before." "What's that?" President Okafor asked. "Certainty," Eliza answered simply. "And the knowledge that others shared their doubts." On the tactical display, 3 Draconis warships suddenly broke formation, their engines flaring as they changed vector away from Earth. "They're withdrawing," the tactical officer reported incredulously. "Receiving transmissions. The crews have mutinied. They're returning to Draconis space to restore honor to the fleet." Similar reports cascaded in over the next hours. The Ultharian collective formally withdrew from council proceedings after protesters surrounded their government complex and security forces refused orders to disperse them. Multiple Draconis colony worlds declared independence, citing evidence of resource theft by their central government. Only the Vorathi maintained their aggressive stance, their ruling hierarchs mobilizing their personal fleet toward Earth as their own worlds descended into civil unrest. In her quarters, Eliza received an encrypted message that bypassed all security protocols. The sender identification made her breath catch. The Vorathi speaker's chief attendant. "What you began cannot be undone," the message read. "Our hierarchs know this, but refuse to accept it. They would rather destroy humanity than adapt. I provide you their attack vector and shield frequencies. Use this information as you must. Some of us choose truth, even at the cost of our own position." Eliza stared at the data, understanding its significance. The most powerful species in council space was coming to eliminate humanity. But for the first time in centuries, they would face an enemy who knew exactly where to strike. Earth's orbital defense grid hummed to life as the Vorathi battle fleet emerged from FTL at the precise coordinates their insider had predicted. General Rivera watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. Humanity's meager defenses had been reconfigured based on the intelligence, focusing all available power on the predicted emergence point. But before Earth's weapons could lock on, something unexpected appeared on the sensors. "Sir," the tactical officer called, voice rising in astonishment. "Multiple ships emerging from FTL. They're not Vorathi." One by one, vessels from 11 council species materialized in precise formation around Earth's orbit. Arathi cruisers with their distinctive wing-like solar arrays. Tellurian destroyers, their coppery hulls reflecting sunlight. Murskani science vessels reconfigured for combat, bristling with hastily attached weapon systems. Ships from every younger council species formed a protective barrier between Earth and the approaching Vorathi. "By the stars," President Okafor whispered as the tactical display updated to show the full scale of the impromptu alliance. A synchronized message transmitted to the Vorathi flagship from every ally vessel. "Any attack on humanity will be considered an attack on all council members. Stand down immediately." For 18 tense hours, the fleets maintained position, weapons locked. Military channels remained silent while diplomatic communications overflowed with furious exchanges. Finally, the Vorathi hierarch himself demanded to speak with Eliza personally, one final exchange before making his decision. In the Global Broadcast Center beneath Geneva, Eliza sat before the quantum communication array as technicians made final adjustments. This conversation would be transmitted across all council worlds and human settlements. "Remember," President Okafor cautioned, "the entire galaxy is watching. Choose your words carefully." Eliza smiled tiredly. "I don't have that luxury, Madam President." The communication system activated. The Vorathi hierarch appeared on the display, his carapace nearly black with fury, ornate battle armor gleaming under his flagship's lights. "Your species has existed in council space for less than a century," he began without preamble, mandibles clicking angrily. "Yet you presume to dismantle governance structures established over millennia. What gives humans the right?" Eliza met his compound eyes steadily. "Nothing gives us that right," she answered simply, her condition ensuring perfect honesty. "Change was already inevitable. We merely accelerated it." She explained how the old diplomatic order had become fundamentally unsustainable, that evolution, political as well as biological, couldn't be permanently suppressed. "Your species rose to dominance because you adapted fastest to interstellar conditions," she noted. "Now you resist adaptation because it threatens your position. But stagnation guarantees extinction. Look at your own evolutionary history." The hierarch's compound eyes studied her for a long moment. "And if we withdraw, what then?" "Truth is uncomfortable," Eliza acknowledged, "and sometimes diplomatic fiction serves purpose. But transparency creates resilience. Humanity's gift to the galaxy isn't just truth, but the adaptability to accommodate it." The galaxy held its breath for 3 days until the Vorathi fleet finally changed course, withdrawing from Earth orbit without further communication. 6 months later, on a newly constructed neutral station, representatives from 26 species gathered for the first session of the Reformed Council. The station's architecture featured acoustic design, ensuring all members heard proceedings equally. Power was distributed through transparent voting systems and rotating leadership. As Eliza rose to address the assembly on the 10th anniversary of what historians now called the Truth Confrontation, she noticed the former Vorathi hierarch, now his species representative under their reformed government, approaching the human delegation. "We were wrong about humans," he admitted, mandibles relaxed in their version of a smile. "Your greatest strength isn't truth. It's that you've failed so spectacularly so many times, yet never stopped adapting. Perhaps that's what the rest of us needed to learn." Eliza smiled. For once, her unique condition felt not like a burden, but a gift. The absolute truth had never sounded so sweet.